Hello and welcome to Accelerating Your Authority. This is the show for experts and consultants growing your expertise-based business through six figures and beyond. And I interview experts and leaders about their business so they can share stories, advice, and insights for growth. And today, my guest, I have the pleasure of having Scott Aaron. And Scott is an internationally acclaimed and award-winning marketer. He's a three-time best-selling author and a top podcaster, which we're probably going to talk about. And Scott is a go-to specialist when it comes to converting traffic, establishing connections, generating leads, all through LinkedIn. So, Scott, welcome to the show.
Well, it's an honor and a privilege to be here, and looking forward to talking about the podcasting and everything more to support your audience and helping them to grow that business to be the expert in their space.
Yeah. So let me ask first about your clients. So who are your ideal clients and what's the biggest challenge that they're facing?
So the people that I typically work with it is a wide array, but I would say from a core foundation, it's business coaches and consultants that are really having a hard time navigating the online space in creating connection, building rapport, but more so building and generating leads that can create revenue into their business, but also acknowledging that they want to have a business that's scalable and a business that they love. And I kind of teach a strategy behind that, all using LinkedIn in what I call a 20-minute a day method that I was able to patent and teach others. So outside of that, I've worked with financial advisors, insurance brokers, brick and mortar business owners. As long as that individual, their business is based around serving another human being, or they have an ideal client in mind, I can show them how to use LinkedIn to not only find them, but to connect with them, to get on a call with them, to close them into their business so they can grow and scale and have a greater impact without having to spend hours and hours and hours a day on the platform, which I know a lot of people are doing too much of. So I want to be able to create that harmony of work-life integration where they're spending more time living and not as much time working.
Cool. Well, let me see if I can get you to dive in a little bit and dig into the LinkedIn part. I'm really fascinated that you can get it down to 20 minutes a day, because one thing I talk to people about, and they're telling me, I just don't have time to go on LinkedIn for hours responding, writing posts, leaving comments, all this kind of stuff. So yeah. Can you tell us a little bit about like what that looks like for you, that 20 minutes?
Yeah. So there's a couple core principles that you need to do. The first thing that you want to do, and again, if it's not written down, it's not going to get done. So any of my clients, whether they're in my virtual program, our mastermind, or one-on-one consulting, I always make sure that everybody that we work with, they actually create a reoccurring calendar event in their electronic calendar called LinkedIn Time. And it's a 20-minute time block that repeats Monday through Friday. So no one can book a time with you, and it pops up. It gives you that reminder every single day. It gives you the 10-minute warning, LinkedIn Time's in 10 minutes. So if it's written down, it's going to get done. If it's not written down, it's not getting done. Of those 20 minutes, now in the very beginning, it may take you a little bit longer, 30, 35 minutes, because anything that you do for the first time or something that's new, again, until you navigate around it, you may be working out the kinks, but after you rinse, wash, and repeat it enough, you can really chop it down to 20 minutes. Now, the first thing that you're going to do is you're going to send out targeted connections. So just so everyone knows this is not uncommon knowledge, but it might be common knowledge for some, but you're only allowed to send a max of 100 connection requests per week on LinkedIn. That's Monday through Sunday. If you send over that, they will restrict your account. First for 24 hours, you do it again. It's a full day or a full week. You do it a third time. It's a full 30 days. You do it a fourth time, they remove the ability for you to ever send a connection request ever again. So you want to be very mindful of that. Now, me personally, I only connect with people Monday through Friday. I do nothing on Saturday and Sunday just because that's the weekend and that's what it should be used for, spending time with friends and family. So you start off by sending out some targeted connections, two types of connections: your ideal client, so that person that you best serve by what it is that you provide, or a power partner. And a power partner could be in our case, we're both podcasters. So again, I would reach out to other business podcasters to see how we can support each other, to get on each other's podcasts. So you want to use the search engine to do so. It's just like Google or Yahoo. You put in exactly from a professional and business title who you want to connect with. You do that each day. And again, you're going to send out those connections. That's the first thing that you're going to do. The second,
how many? Sorry, let me just dive in a little bit. I got a couple of specific questions there. So, the first is, how many of those are you sending then when you break it down to per day? And then secondly, are you sending personalized connection requests, or are you just sending them blank?
So the only time, so the long and the short is, if you're allowed 100 a week, if you're sending connections Monday through Friday, it's 20 a day. So you can go a max 20 a day. I typically don't. I usually target about 15 people just to kind of not dance with the devil. I don't want to get in trouble. As far as like sending connections, yes, I send very blanketed connections, just connect. What I have found is that when people start adding a note, it comes off very spammy, because that ends up being the first message that they see if they accept the connection. But too many people now are selling and pitching from that note on LinkedIn, like whether someone's a VA or this, that, or the other. What I do recommend is, the only time you are going to send a note is if there's a personal connection or some sort of connection point between you and that individual. So say one of your listeners, heard me on your podcast. They can reach out to me and they say, hey, Scott, wanted to send you a connection request, heard your amazing interview on the podcast, would love to connect with you on LinkedIn. So they're stating a very known connection point. Or maybe they were referred to connect to me. Maybe they saw me speak at an event and they make mention of that. That is the only time you ever want to add a note. Otherwise, you're just going to send a blanketed connection request to either one of those two that I explained, ideal client or ideal power partner.
Cool. Okay. So, right. So we have LinkedIn time blocked in the calendar every day. You're sending 10, 15 connection requests to either ideal clients or power partners, and you're not putting in connection requests in there. You're sending them blank. Okay. Am I up to speed? Is there anything else there?
No notes, just sending the connection request. So now you go on there, you send your connections. The next thing you're going to do is you're going to message people from the day prior that accepted. So you're never going to message someone the same day that you become accepted. You always want to give some, what I call marination time. So you want things to marinate. You want them to dry age a little bit. You don't want to be too overzealous with messaging people, because that sometimes will mimic some of the software that people are illegally using on LinkedIn, because per the user agreement, you can't be using any automated software that connects the messages for you, and you cannot have anybody logging in acting as you, connecting and messaging. So if you're doing one of those two things, stop immediately, because if LinkedIn finds out, they won't just restrict your account, they will delete your account altogether, and any other established account attached to any of your emails that they're picking up. So when you're sending your messages, you're only sending between 5 to 10 messages a day, because they do have a messaging per day limit. They don't tell you what it is, but what I found is the safe zone is between 5 and 10. So you're going to message about 5 to 10 people after you send your connection. So this is where you're planting those seeds. So you want to be in farmer mode, not hunter mode. So you're planting seeds to reap the harvest. And the messages are very simple. It could be a simple, hey, Steve, it's so great to be connected to you. I noticed that we had a similar background in XYZ profession or XYZ industry. Would love to hear how things are going with you. Share more about what I'm up to and how we can support one another here on LinkedIn. Anytime for a call or a Zoom this or next week. So it's a very warm, open message. It's not spammy. You're not selling. You're looking to form a connection. You're looking to form rapport and relationship. So the first thing, you're stating that person's name in a relaxed fashion. You're not making it too stuffy, like, dear so-and-so, great to be connected to you. Hope your business is going well. You're not doing that. You're saying it very nice and relaxed. The second thing is you're bridging the gap between you and that person. So when Steve is reading my message, he's seeing that relatable connection point front and center in the body of that message. So it makes sense to him why I'm even reaching out in the first place. You're not going to blindly message people where you have no relatable connection from a power partner or ideal client standpoint. And the third and final thing that you're doing is you're finishing with a call to action. Questions lead to answers. You have to ASK to GET. You have to ask in order to get. So if you want to start booking more calls, to start connecting with more people, you got to ask for the phone call. So that's the second part. So you've sent your connections, you've sent your messages. Now, the third thing that you're going to do is you're going to use what I call the push notifications. The push notifications are the little notification bell on the top of your LinkedIn profile. This is where LinkedIn lets you know what's going on with your connections, who's having a happy birthday, who's celebrating a work anniversary, who changed a job, who got a promotion. And it's going to say, hey, Scott, these 8 people are celebrating a birthday. These 4 people have a work anniversary. Say congrats. Say happy birthday. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. You click on the automated message, you press send, and that is it. Because you do this, LinkedIn wants you to stay in touch with your connections because there is a far greater amount of people that will not respond to your first outreach message. There are probably 20 to 30% will respond, but the 70 to 80% that don't will respond to the nurture messages. So they may not respond to that opening message that I just stated, but if I'm wishing someone a happy work anniversary, they may say, thank you so much. Now that door of conversation is open. So I can say, you are so welcome. I'm not sure if you saw my message from a few months ago. Would love to hear how things are going with your work and your job. Share what I'm up to and how we can support each other here on the platform. Is now a better time for us to hop on a call or a Zoom when is best for you. So now the door of opportunity is open. So again, you sent your connections, you sent your messages, and you've nurtured the network that you're growing using the push notifications that LinkedIn is handing to you on a silver platter. So those are the first 3 of the 4 things you're doing. The final thing is you want to create a piece of content. Now, this is where people get hung up. Now, what I'll tell you is this. In the very beginning of implementing this strategy on LinkedIn, you do not have to post every day on LinkedIn. I suggest people in the very beginning, until they get their feet underneath of them, post on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. That's it. Don't worry about Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, or Sunday. 3 days a week. So in essence, Tuesday and Thursday, all you're doing is connecting, messaging, and nurturing. But on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, you're connecting, messaging, nurturing, and then creating value-added content. And here's what you're going to do. Monday, you do a video. It could be pre-recorded, which I always suggest in the very beginning. All you need is your phone, your face, and your voice. That's it. You need those 3 things. And all you do is you give a 2 to 4 minute value-added tip video. So whatever your zone of genius is, and I'll give you an example. So I did a video 2 weeks ago on the correlation between working out and building a business. So I just finished working out at the gym. I was in my car and I said, listen, I just wanted to jump on here today. And I wanted to give you guys 3 tips or the 3 connection points between being healthy and working out and growing a healthy business. And I said, number 1 is having a consistent routine. So I went over the correlation between the 2. I said, number 2, you have to create consistency. You want something to work, you got to be consistent with it. And I said, 3, you have to be diligent about the work that you're putting into what you're looking to achieve. So again, I gave people some value-added commentary. It was only about a 4-minute video. And then I just, I gave a call to action. Let me know in the comments below, what was your biggest takeaway from today's video? And I'll see you next time. That's it. So you record it right on your phone. You upload it right to LinkedIn. That's what you're going to do Monday. Now, you don't have to do it in real time either. So if you want to pre-batch about 5 or 6 videos and have them already stored on your phone, you can do that. So if you write down maybe 6 different topics, get ahead of the game. Now, on Wednesday, you're going to do what I call market research. And you do market research by asking questions, but specifically doing LinkedIn polls. So when you're on LinkedIn, whether you're using the mobile app or the desktop, you're going to click start a post. And it's going to give you options of what you can do to start a post. Add a photo, add a video. At the very bottom, you'll see this little bar graph and it'll say create a poll. Now, if you want to take the pulse of the network that you're creating, if you want to find out what people are struggling with, guess what? You got to ask them. So once a week, you ask a market research question. What's the number one reason why you haven't started a podcast yet? Number one, fear. Number two, I don't know what to say. Number three, I don't know if it's going to benefit my audience. So now you're putting that out there to the network that you're growing on LinkedIn. They're going to start voting, and it's going to give you the much needed insight of what they're struggling with. So maybe they say they're afraid to start a podcast, right? So now on Wednesday, you got that market research. So Monday, you did your video. Wednesday, you did your market research. Now, Friday, you're going to do a long form post up to 3,000 characters. So it could be lengthy. And here's where you're going to go over more value added tips. 3 reasons why you should get over your fear and start a podcast. Number 1, number 2, number 3, which tip helped you the most? Comment below. So all you're doing is building the know, the like, and the trust. You're building rapport, right? You're positioning yourself as the go-to person, as the expert in your space, as the resource. If they want to know something about X, Y, and Z, they're going to go to you. So when you can create that flow Monday through Friday, right? Monday, Wednesday, Friday, connect, message, nurture, and post. Tuesday and Thursday, just connect, message, and nurture. You're only going to spend about 20 minutes on the platform. Outside of that, then you just kind of pop off and on as you need to, as notifications come up. If people are engaging in your content, you can comment back. If they respond to your message, you can engage through Messenger to go book a call. And those are just a couple minutes at a time. But the nucleus of what you're going to do is blocking out those 20 minutes to do the things that I just mentioned.
And that is a masterclass in LinkedIn. I love it.
In 10 minutes, a 10-minute masterclass.
And that's what I love about this this podcast and podcasting in general, is because I can get to talk to people like you and put this out in the world for people. So that's really interesting, and thank you for taking me through the details of that. There's a couple of things I just want to ask about. Do you turn on push notifications for everybody that you join in your network?
In all honesty, I've turned off all push notifications on all of social media on my phone. So I don't get the dings and stuff anymore. But what I have made it a point to do is twice a day, I go into all of my social media platforms and check my notifications and engage. So I always post stuff in the morning. So around lunchtime, I will go in to check whatever notifications are going on. And then again, at the end of the workday, right before dinner, around 5:30, 6 o'clock, I'll go in and I'll check one more time. And then whatever I haven't gotten to, I will obviously pick up the next day. Because I don't want to, again, we want to be able to be connected as much as we can online, but disconnected at the very same time. There's too many people that walk around literally with their phone glued to their face. And that's not good for anyone's mental or emotional health. So for me, I time block everything, and I have dedicated times that I go on to social media to check those notifications to see what's going on. Sometimes there's a bunch going on. Sometimes there's not much, and I'm fine with both. But I keep that steady flow so I don't have to be on my phone all day.
Yeah, and I 100% agree with you there. And so when I was asking you that question, I actually didn't think about like the phone notifications. I absolutely would recommend, I have almost every notification apart from incoming calls turned off on my phone. Yeah. And
you were talking about a LinkedIn platform. So on
so I'm talking about if you like ring the bell, right? That's what you're doing. You're hitting the bell.
So LinkedIn. So when you turn on creator mode on LinkedIn, you move the connect button to the follow feature, which also enables the LinkedIn notification bell.
Okay,
which
right.
The only people can see that are your first connections. So if someone goes to your profile and they're a second or third connection, until they start following you, they can't hit your notification bell. So whenever I do a video on LinkedIn, I always tell people to go to my profile on LinkedIn. If you haven't done so already, hit the follow button and then hit my notification bell to get notified of my content. So yes, I always have that call to action in there. And
Cool.
even on my background banner, if someone
I
goes to
noticed
my,
that. Yeah.
so on Canva, I created a background banner. So when someone is connected to me, there's a little message in the background banner that says, ring my notification bell for updates. And it has an arrow that points right to where the bell should be. But again, you can't see that. So when you visit your own profile, what you're going to see instead of the notification bell is an edit pencil. So the only time you can actually see it is when you're visiting someone else's profile that you're connected to that has creator mode turned on. So you'll see their notification bell. That's the only time you'll be able to see it.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, well, that was fascinating and super helpful. So thank you for getting into the details on that for us. So let me ask you about your own business, and I'm guessing that you use this same strategy to grow your own business. Is there anything else that you do? Can you tell me maybe a little bit about your podcast, what your podcast strategy is?
Yeah, so my wife and I, obviously we run our company together. It's a marketing, branding, and business building agency, and we have different facets to it. So my wife has her own consulting firm called BYOB Agency. I have my own consulting firm where I do the LinkedIn coaching and consulting. I speak for companies. I do in-person trainings, one-on-one. And then we have our own mastermind called the Expert Authority Mastermind, where we help people create and launch a podcast, write their book, optimize their website, create courses, memberships, basically creating intellectual property so they can grow and scale. We have a foundations course which teaches the basic foundations of growing a business. And we also have our own social media posting platform called BYOB Social, where you can post and pre-schedule content up to 7 different platforms. Now, as far as my podcast strategy, the interesting thing was when I started my podcast almost 4 years ago, there was zero strategy behind it, except my wife said, you should start a podcast. It would be a great way for you to connect with more people. And, as you and I talked about in the pre-show, I'm over 400 episodes now. I'm getting between 15 to 20,000 listens per month, approaching 250,000 total listens, which is just amazing to even think about that many people have listened to the podcast. And my strategy has always been over delivering on the value. So when people listen to a podcast, whether it's in short or long form, whether it's a guest or a solo episode, you want to make sure that it's value packed, just like the episode that we're having today. So whenever you're interviewing someone, you want to be able to ask questions like the ones that you've asked me, where when someone listens to the podcast, as you mentioned, it's like, oh my God, this is a mini masterclass on how to use LinkedIn. So from the aspect, if you're that person that wants a podcast and you're going to start interviewing people, make sure that you squeeze the juice out of the guests that you have on there. Make sure they're giving you some tangible things. Ask questions that prompt great answers that is going to resonate with the audience that you have. So that's the first thing. The second thing, when you are doing your solo episodes, there's 2 things that you want to keep in mind. Number 1, the length of your episode. And number 2, the quality of your episode. Now, why I said the length of your episode, because for those that don't know this, goldfish have now a longer attention span than the human beings. So you want to make... I
did not know.
Yeah, so there's been scientific studies. Goldfish actually have a longer attention span than human beings now because of the overstimulation that we have in our lives. So you want to make sure that if you're doing a solo episode, my recommendation, and this is what we teach in our course, is you want to keep it to 8 to 12 minutes. That is beyond a significant amount of time for you to bring some value-added commentary to it. So when you're doing your solo episodes, whatever it is on, you want to give some tangible tips. So when someone is listening, you have to understand it's almost like them registering for a college course or continuing education. They are tuning into your podcast to learn something new that once they hear it, it could be made applicable to whatever it is they're looking to grow within their business. So I always think about, if I was listening to my own podcast, would I have been able to get something of value from this? And I know every single time I record a podcast episode, there is something of value for someone to take away from that. So you want to be really mindful of the value added information that you bring to those episodes and the amount of time that you're recording. Now, when you do the interview episodes, I always recommend 25 to 40 minutes max. Gone are the days of the 2-hour episodes. And I trust me, I've been on some of those, and man, I am exhausted after, because if you want to increase frequency of listeners of your podcast, produce more short form content where they can binge. Think about HBO Max. Think about Netflix. Think about Hulu. What do people love? They love being able to binge episodes, right? They want to be able to sit there and say, you know what? I got 2 hours. I'm going to watch 4 30-minute episodes right now. The same goes for when someone is listening to a podcast. If they have a 40-minute drive to work and they know that your solo episodes are 10 minutes, they can squeeze 3 or 4 episodes in that drive time, which again creates more know, like, and trust. And you will get greater amounts of leads and qualified buyers for things that you have when you have dedicated podcast listeners. And the other benefit, it is global. I have listeners all over the world, in over 108 countries my podcast is actually listened to in, which is, again, mind-boggling. And that's one of the, again, another huge reason why someone should start a podcast. And what we talk about is the core intellectual pieces of property that every business owner needs. A standalone course, you know, your signature offer, a podcast, and a book. You got those 3 things, you are setting yourself up for great success, because you will be the expert in your space.
Wow. Well, I think that that covers one of my next questions. So the short form podcasting. So this is supposed to be my short form podcast, and anybody listening to this and looking at the timestamp will see that this is something I have difficulty with keeping these episodes down when I bring on people like Scott, because because it's like a masterclass, and I just want to keep that great information coming. In terms of the solo episodes, and I'm 100% with you. And in fact, I think even like 8 to 12 minutes, and I agree with you that that's a good time. It's actually hard to record solo episodes that long. And it's so much easier to have a conversation with somebody. And so, yeah, the solo episodes I find difficult to create because, you're looking at the camera, you're looking at the microphone, and you've got your notes, and, you're not talking to somebody. It's much easier to have a conversation and just kind of riff off each other. So I think you're right about keeping it shorter. When there's only one voice on the audio, it's not broken up. It's kind of a little bit more monotonous for the listener. So I think that is good. I've also heard some people with super short episodes. And I think Jonathan Stark brought out an episode recently, and it was like 23 seconds long or 45 seconds long or something on his episode, on his solo show.
Yeah.
So
Robin Sharma does 5-minute episodes, and
yeah.
that includes his intro and his outro. So the episode is maybe, I don't know, 2.5, 3 minutes. And that's what he does. He does very, very short. He does like one tip and then he's done. But again, the great thing about a podcast is you can make it whatever you want. They could be 30 seconds long. Again, when you create a podcast, it's your own. You can do it any which way you want, whatever way it feels best to you.
Yeah. 100%. And that's the cool thing about the format and about us as experts becoming these creators. Like we're becoming these like mini media companies, creating educational and hopefully sometimes also entertaining content for our ideal clients. So I'm 100% with you. And by the way, the episode on Jonathan Stark's show was 38 seconds long. That's episode 288. With a 38-second long episode, like I kind of bow to Jonathan because that's just brilliant. I love how concise he got with that. That's so amazing. Okay, so let me come and try and drag this episode kicking and screaming back onto the track because we went down a few rabbit holes there. So let me ask you about resources. Are there any business books or resources that have been important for you or that you'd recommend people to check out?
Yeah, so part of our mastermind, we always send like a little care package to all of our members. They get a mug, um, an expert authority mug, but there's three books that we send them. The Science of Getting Rich by Wallace D. Waddles. It's the first money mindset book ever written in 1910, still applicable to today. So any money mindset book that you've read is based on the principles of this book. The second one is The Common Path to Uncommon Success by John Lee Dumas.
Great book.
Great book, great guy. He's one of the most successful podcasters ever. He makes at least $1 million a month off of his podcast. And for anyone that wants to get into podcasting and kind of wants to hear a great story of how to do so, you don't have to do what John does, which is a daily podcast, like literally every day, 7 days a week, 365. He produces episodes, but it's a great book to understand about the common path to uncommon success. And the last book that we always recommend is Marketing Made Simple by Donald Miller, who has the story brand method, if anybody has heard of that. This book literally is a $20,000 mastermind compressed into a 200-page book that's $15.99. So understanding how to market to your networks, to grow it, to build your email list, it's like business in a box. So whenever my wife and I are recommending books, we always talk about money mindset. We always talk about, really how to grow that intellectual property. That's why we always recommend The Common Path to Uncommon Success. And then we always talk about how to market yourself, because there's a lot of people in the very beginning, they can't afford marketing firms. And Marketing Made Simple is a great way to learn to do it yourself in the very beginning.
Awesome. Great recommendations. Thank you. So what is the number one tip that you would give to somebody who wants to accelerate their authority?
I would say think about the end in mind before you do anything. So a lot of people, when they're looking to create something, they don't even know what they're creating and why. So something that my wife and I always focus on is, where do we want our lives, not our business, where do we want our lives to be 3 years from now? So 36 months into the future, how do we want to be spending our time, right? How many days do we want to be working, right? How much money do we want to be making per month? When we have that vision, we start with the end in mind, and then we work backwards of how we're going to create that. So for any business owner, for anyone listening to this, to really create the business and the life that you love, you have to think about what you want that life to actually look like. And when you know with 100% certainty and clarity of what that life and that business is going to look like, then all you have to do is fill in the space in between where you are now and where you want to be in 3 years, and never stop moving forward. It's about consistency, it's about clarity, and it's about taking action. And something that Nancy and I tell our students all the time, it doesn't matter if it's a millimeter or mile of action taking a day. As long as you're moving the needle forward, you will achieve everything that you want. And again, put blinders on. Do not compare yourself to someone else. Focus on you, what your purpose is, who you want to serve, and giving more value. Under promise and over deliver, and you will win.
Awesome. Love it. So, Scott, where can people find you if they want to learn more?
Yeah, so LinkedIn, obviously, you can find me on there. But my website's probably the best hub. It's scottaaron.net. You can access my podcast, my books. All my social handles are on there. And even if you just kind of Google Scott Aaron LinkedIn, I should pop up with many ways of connecting, and would love to hear from everybody.
Awesome. Well, Scott, thank you so much for being on the show.
Well, grateful to be here. Thank you again for the opportunity. And I hope people took a lot away from this, and, continue to listen to this podcast, because it's created for a purpose and a reason. And I'm glad you guys are all here, and hope you took something away.
Awesome. Thanks for listening to Accelerating Your Authority.